Well, there's you one of the few people I can go well to, and they know how to respond back rather than I'm not sure.
It's gas, you don't need cross my mind there. I'm not the slightest bit nervous of all the things. Talking to Tom, no problem at all. It's like I'm back home.
Well, what's the crack, everybody? While I have you, how you keeping? Are you well? It's Tom O'Mahony here for episode 236 of Buckshot with my mighty friend Paul Marsh. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. There's a rake more episodes to go have a listen to. Evidently 236, and there's Ramble Pods as well. Ramble Pods are Patreon exclusive podcasts in the middle of the week. So if you do want to support the show while getting a little wet your beak with a couple of extra bits and pieces like that, you get the ad-free options. You get, you know what I mean, you get all the good stuff. You get the ad-free options, you get the video of the interview, and you get live shows that we do on Sunday evenings every couple of weeks. We pick a subject, get a couple of drinks in, loosey-goosey with just me and the Patreons, no recording, no nothing, we just have the crack. So that's how you support the show. $3 a month, it's below in the notes if you want to click on through. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, give it the 5 stars if you wouldn't mind. As well as that, if it is Spotify, give it the bell so at least it arrives in your owl phone on a weekly basis. None of all that appeals to you? Well, go ahead and just do a screenshot, tag the podcast on whatever platform, because you'll find it. You will. Follow me on whatever platform you want, especially Tom O'Mahony. I'll keep you up to date of all the gigs I'll be doing and stuff like that coming down the line. And that's really it. Right, let's swing on back to our guest, the mighty Mr. Paul Marsh. Do you still get nervous? I suppose.
Oh,
yes.
Geez, yeah, big time, yeah. I was nervous a lot lately because the gaps between doing gigs, like if you do a few gigs in a few days, you're grand.
Yeah.
But if there's a week of a gap, I get fucking mad nervous. And I was in the lounge over the weekend and I was very nervous on the Friday night. But
and then Saturday night you're sucking diesel then, like.
Oh, bulletproof, throwing in mad stuff, but when you're sticking to the greatest hits, if any, when you're on the first. Oh, by the way, I'm wearing my Art Finnan jersey. My tip jersey was in the wash. Anytime I've been on this show, I've worn tip jerseys. So I'm wearing my Art Finnan one because I have another tip jersey I don't fit into anymore. So, but yeah, it's the Galway colours.
Yeah, I was looking going. Yeah.
Anytime I wear it in Dublin, you always hear someone in the distance going, "Go on, Galway," and I'm going, "No, it's actually a village in Tipper." Oh, he's gone.
You need to get that printed across the back. Before you shout, it's actually a village in South Tipperary. Yeah.
Just it's not Galway on the back of it or something.
Yes.
Like that, yeah. So yeah.
Wait, I often wonder, like, our tip, because people go on about Cork and Dublin people when they're away or abroad or whatever, but I think tip people are fucking bad. Like,
we are. I went to Australia and Sharon couldn't get over. I brought 2 tip jerseys with me, and we went to Fremantle one day. And I, with no exaggeration, I'd say 12 people shouted in the distance, "Come on, tip!"
Yeah.
Because the minute you see something abroad, and her brother, I think, is very funny that he comes home. He was telling me that he comes home from Australia, but he's still in that frame of mind. And then he hears someone say something about Ireland or Dublin. He'd go, "Go on, oh, I'm actually in Dublin."
Yeah. Oh man, you're some bollocks if you do that, like, aren't you? Yeah.
But that's the way they are over there. The Irish over in Australia, they're mad. I remember one time his jet ski broke down, and this is terrible now. It broke down. We were carrying it over over the sand dunes, and we were near this kind of a bar, and he was like, "Don't talk to each other in an Irish accent because they'll be thinking, oh, fucking stupid paddies after their jet skis." So we all started talking to each other in a posh English accents.
And bad posh English accents too, by the sounds.
I know, yeah. It was really bad.
These South Africans fucking walking over with it.
I remember he said about doing Cockney, and I was like, I can't do Cockney. So we started doing, okay, so it goes really posh. So we're like, all right, you just a little to the left there, mate. All right, mate. This kind of thing. So anyway, that was it. But we didn't want them to know, because they're worried about the Irish rep over there,
Is that a thing? Because I know that there was there's always, I remember hearing from friends that went over there and they got a shock. There were the two, it was 2 girls, and they got a shock to the system. They would have been quiet people, like, when they landed over to Sydney, like. And Saturday night was all out fucking carnage of county jerseys and fighting and drinking and sure lads making money that they never made before, like, and they were going
that's it, and
fucking wild, like.
And they have a reputation. Like, we got off the plane and he drove us to a drive-through off license.
Here.
I couldn't believe this. And it wasn't the case that you got a 6-pack, you were getting boxes. And like he says to me, like, you're here for a few weeks, get a few boxes. This is what we're here for. And it was a drive-through, and they load up all the boxes of beer into the back of your car for you. And you pay on the way out. Yeah. I mean, talk about like fucking taking drinks seriously. Like. No wonder the Irish all love it over there.
That's I remember talking with people, and they drink, by all accounts, they drink far more frequently. Maybe not as much in a one sitting, but they drink far more frequently. And same in America too. It wouldn't be weird to have a drink every night, like a couple of beers.
Yeah, they probably would have a couple of beers. The only thing I didn't like about Australia is you kind of live for the weekend. There's no going out midweek. They come home in the evening to have their dinner, maybe a beer or whatever, and they're in bed early, and they're up early in the morning to go to work or whatever. So a half day Friday, and then you go to the pub. It's usually an Irish pub, and everyone meets up there and has the crack. Saturday is the day for the beach, and and then Saturday evening they take turns in having barbecues, and Sunday then they're rode off. And then they go back to work on Monday. That's their week. Well, that was my impression anyway, So there's probably areas of Ireland where that's probably the norm as well. I don't know, but I don't know. I just thought living for the weekend was not for me. I just kind of, life's too short. You have to go out midweek and do that as well, and do a gig in some shitty comedy club and stand on the stairs for an hour chatting to people. That's
really live.
Yeah, really live.
But sure, America was the same way. It was like, bang out as much as you could in the way, like put in a 60-hour week and then get slaughtered Friday night, Saturday night. Yeah. And, as you said, to stay in the bed all day Sunday then, like.
Yeah. So come here, you were just before you were on, you were saying that there's a load of Paul Marshes you Googled that came up on your.
Yeah. And like, why would I Google Paul Marsh when I know him so well? But again, it's your phone, because the phone told me 4 times today that we had a Zoom meeting this evening.
Yeah, so did mine. Yeah.
So there's one unsavory. I didn't have to go past one page on Google. There's, because you're there, and there's a gang of other lads, and there's right owl looking fellas as well. But there was one fella. I want to open the page on this because I want to read. Now,
there's one guy's really successful in America, and I remember before Googling something to see that my name come up on. Do you know what I was looking for? When you're doing a poster and you want someone said something about you. Oh, he's a great joke smith or some shit like that.
Yes.
And I was wondering, is there anything out there about me? So when I was Googling, there was one particular guy in America who's like loaded, owns buildings, and like skyscrapers in the whole shebang. And his name is Paul Marsh. And I was like, geez, I remember thinking I'll have to go a while now to catch up with him.
But did you ever where's the Marsh name? Because you wouldn't meet many Marshes. Like,
it's French origins, I think. My father told me that in the 70s we had a phone in the shop, and we were the only Marshes in the whole phone book in Ireland. And what happened was everyone used to be, do you mind if I use your phone? The fucking phone bills were sky high because no one had a phone back then.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So he ended up getting rid of it, and he got it back, I think, in 1982. And when he got it back in 1982, there was something like 30 or 40 Marshes, and they were all only like second or third cousins of ours.
Were they all big tall fellas as well, I wonder?
No, I'm from my mother's side. My father's side weren't that tall. I'm one of the Welshes. My mother was one of the Welshes from South Tip there, and they're all tall, so that's where I got that out of. But, like my brother's only up to there, me. So.
But for the audio listeners, that was Paul's shoulder.
I keep forgetting on a podcast.
which still is about 6'1". Like, my brother's a fart. He's only up to my shoulder. Like. So the first Paul Marsh I came across was actually a fairly unsavory fucker, so we won't go into him. But the other fella then, he's this very successful overland 4x4 expedition company. So you can go with Paul Marsh. He's an old, a middle-aged, like South African fella, but has that wiry kind of hardy look about him. So he goes, he's got a class website and everything. It's Paul Marsh 4x4. I'm amazed that you haven't gotten a phone call. Somebody trying to buy a G.
That's my measurements. Yeah, I could actually be Paul Marsh 4x4 at this stage. I'm piling on the weight. Jeez.
Well, so he basically goes across from Malaysia to all across Africa. He does those overland mad explorations. And unbelievably successful. There's no, like, this guy holds records for going fucking places and everything. I don't know how tall. He's probably tall too, because South Africans tend to be big fuckers, like so. But the best one, You said there's a successful fella, and there's another fella. He's actually a professor of finance in University of London. But the best one of the whole lot is a character name. It's actually not an actor. It's or a fella. It's a character name. Now I'll find out who the actor was in a minute. But it's a movie, right, called Dagon. It's a Spanish horror film, but it's directed by like British and stuff, and produced by British people and stuff like that. But it's kind of based loosely around. I don't know. Did you ever hear of H.P. Lovecraft?
No.
He was a bit of he was a bit of a fucking magician, kind of fancied himself as a magician back in the day and stuff. But I'm not sure if Lovecraft, but it was loosely based on him, and it was a book or a movie, I think. Like it was a short story called Dagon, but he made a movie kind of loosely based around it as well called I don't know, Inish something or other, somewhere based in Scotland. But this is an adaptation of it. But Paul Marsh, he wakes up. He has a dream, right? Paul Marsh. They went for the full character's name. Has a dream that he discovers a mermaid with razor-sharp teeth while scuba diving into a strange watery cave. Paul awakes on the boat off the shores of Spain, where he's vacationing with his girlfriend, Barbara, and their friends, Vicky and Howard. A sudden storm blows Paul's boat against some hidden rocks, and Vicky is trapped out. Paul and Barbara basically take the lifeboat and the nearby deserted fishing village, and all sorts of strange carry-ons. So that was from 1991. Jeez. And it did 212,000 at the box office.
Jeez.
So
Paul Marsh. I must Google that. That's a. Sorry, I was going to say when you start.
I have your Spanish name. They actually put you. So the guy playing Paul Marsh is Ezra Godden, but he plays. They've put in both his English spelling name and he's Paul Marsh / Pablo Cambaro.
Pablo Cambaro, that's deadly.
That's your fucking Spanish. Oh my God, that's your Spanish alter ego.
Oh, I have to use that. How do you spell Cambaro?
Cam and 2 R's for O and then O.
Deadly.
Oh, that's class. That's a class name. Yeah.
Cambaro. Yeah. That's I like that. Yeah.
Pablo.
Because I remember when I this is probably vain now, but I remember when I started doing comedy.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say. Everybody Google themselves.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah.
But I hadn't actually thought about it. But there was another comedian. I won't say who he was, but he used to go on about the whole time about. I was in town the other day, and this guy walked up to me, and he recognized me and all this. And I was thinking, I never get fucking recognized, you know. And I must have been at it about 5 or 6 years, and I was down to Kildare Outlets, and there was a guy. I was looking at in the Levi's store, and there was a guy right beside me, and he was kind of looking at me. I thought this, and I went, just kind of, all right there, mate, you know. And he goes, I know your face from someplace. And I said, all right. And then in my head I was going, oh, good. I went, yeah, I am. I do a bit of stand-up comedy. And he went, no.
No.
And then he goes to me, did you put a chimney fire out for me one night? And I fucking knew straight away. I knew who he was, right? Because he had white carpets. Now I say he had white carpets.
Yeah.
That should be the advertisement that fucking 4 of us come in and fucking ruin your carpets. The minute he said that, I was like, no, yeah, how are you going? I was gone like a hot stand because we fucking, you know, because you put down these sheets and all, and he hadn't cleaned his chimneys in fucking years, and the amount of shite that came out and and he had all white furniture and the whole lot. We were like, but I was like, I thought that was it. And the other time then I remember we were. Jim Jeffries came over and Carl Spain knew the tour manager. He got us free tickets, and we went to the Tree Arena. And afterwards, we went over to that checkered hotel. I forget, the Marker Hotel or whatever. And he said, "Is there a pub?" We went around the corner to the Ferryman with Jim Jeffries, right? And we were downstairs, and I was standing chatting to Jim for ages, and people kept coming over that were at the concert and asking him to get a picture taken or whatever. And then Jim, the seats came available in the corner, and they sat down. Now we're down in the downstairs. He sat in the corner, and I was wearing a black t-shirt and a black jeans, right? And I'm talking to Damo Clark, and we're sat, and people kept coming up to me going, "Here, do you think Jim would mind if I got a picture taken?"
No.
And I was like, Jim is sound. Don't be worried.
I know it's good.
And then Damo, right, who's Australian, right? If anybody, Damo goes to me, you know, I still can't do it. You know, people think he's security, and I was like, no, they don't. And the minute I said no, they don't, this girl comes up to me and goes, "Here, you're Jim Jeffries' security, aren't you?" I was like, no, I'm not. But anyway, so that leads up to the second time that I thought I got recognized. So I was in the Ivy Gardens was on, and I was in a big shop there in Harker Street. Is it Harker Street? No, Camden Street, in a big Spar or whatever. And I'm in the queue, and this guy turns around, he smiles at me, and he nods, and I was like, I'm thinking to myself, do I know this guy? And he goes, how are you? Are you over at the comedy festival? Are you there this week? And I goes, yeah, I'm over there this week. Teddy, brilliant. Yeah. Is Jim with you? I'm not Jim Jeffrey security, for fuck's sake.
That'll tell you how powerful he is, that you couldn't get recognized, but his security got recognized. Do you know what I mean?
Like, for about 12 years, but there is a section of Dublin, or a few people who think that I'm Jim Jeffrey security. Anyway.
Wow.
So
so I've gotten that one. A similar one myself back in the day was, I do a bit of stand up, and then you've hung your balls out there, and they go, no.
Yeah.
I think I played rugby with you. Did I? No, were we in college? Where did? And then they'll pick some abstract thing like.
I used to get that all the time when I lived and worked in Tala, so I would go out in Tala when I started in the fire brigade, and I would be regularly. I used to go to a nightclub called Coco's. Regularly, girls would come up to me and go, "Hey, I know your face from someplace," and I would always say, "Oh no, if I met you, I definitely remember a lovely girl like you," or whatever. And she'd walk off, and one of my friends would go, "Did you have her in the back of the ambulance?" I'm like, "Yeah." I won't tell you what for. So that was a regular thing. People would walk up and go, "I know your face," because when you're in uniform, people don't recognize, usually don't recognize you, but sometimes they're.
And that's exactly, but it doesn't even have to be as striking as something like a uniform. Literally, it can just be out of context.
Yeah.
Like the Damo and Ivor thing for years completely threw people. Like, so all I was getting for the longest time, and I didn't know how to deal with it, because at the time I was living in Portobello, so you're around a lot of people that would be watching that show, but I wouldn't get recognized for it. People would just look at you with dirty looks. It was always dirty looks, like,
where do I know him from?
Oh yeah, and not in a happy way, like going, because it was so out of context. Because I'd be walking down my big old farmer walk down the fucking road, as I tend to have, and just shouting some obscenities at somebody or speaking with a big Tipperary accent, so they'll go, I couldn't possibly know this freak.
Well, I reckon that a lot of the time when I was in Tala, walking around the square, you would have people looking at me, and I just assumed that they would look at me and go, "He looks familiar. He's probably a guard. I probably had hassle off him or something."
Yeah, I mean? Well,
I just had that looking look about me, So
that and the environment you're in too. Like, let's
be
honest.
Well, it's the last thing anyone's going to think when they see a 6'4" guy with a Tipperary accent and go, "Comedian." Definitely, that's what it is.
Like Templemore written all over you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's it. And even the reason, the way certain guards off duty wear certain clothes, the reason that is, or it's not so much anymore, but the reason is because you can't get clothes to fit this physique. You know what I mean? You have to, like, the football jerseys are so Superdry and all, they make the, treble and 4XLs and all. They make so that's why Superdry and clothes like that are the undercover guards fucking thing, because that's a North Face or whatever, So that's
I'd love to
that's
know
the reason.
I'd love to find out that Superdry actually had like a Garda line, because definitely they do. Like, lads go drifting, love a good old Superdry t-shirt. The lads that do the backwards hand salute out through the windscreen. Those lads, and guards loving out Superdry. But I'd love to find out that they've actually got a Garda specific commission.
I got to tell you, I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but at the start of COVID,
I love when you start sentences like this.
I shouldn't be telling you this, I know. But at the start of COVID, Helly Hansen gave us 50% off for all frontline workers.
Really?
And the fire brigade are fucking renowned. If it's free, it's for me. You know this thing, right?
Yeah.
So I personally got about 5 jackets off them, one for Sharon, her family, neighbours, the whole lot.
Best of gear,
gear. And I remember going in one time, the Laughter Lounge were doing something there Christmas 2 years ago or something, and I came in early one morning, they were filming something, and I pulled into the car park in Tara Street, and it must have about 20 fellas passed me, every single one of them wearing Helly Hansen. So now it's actually up on the Helly Hansen site, but it's not available anymore. And I'm paraphrasing here, but especially to firefighters.
You fucking hungry
because we fucking cleaned them out. someone in management, I would say, got sacked for that idea. But like, you know what we should do? It'd be good publicity. We'll give the firefighters 50% off, and then we fucking. Yeah. But anyway, you know.
A full 50, like, a full 50.
Yeah, 50%. Yeah, no, it was brilliant. Oh, jeez, I've coached there. I've enough coached there to see me through retirement. You know.
Ah, shit! You should have hit me up on that one.
Yeah. Oh, my neighbours and all. I mentioned it down the pub, and my neighbours and all were asking me. So I should be saying that.
I would. Sure, it's done now. They can't fucking take him back.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. I still have an account with him. I think it's back to 25% or something like that. So.
Are you getting upgraded uniforms now, like the guards? Do you know the guards are wearing this fucking like. I was talking with two guards the other night outside a comedy club. Actually, they were down at Cork, and they were nice. They were chatting away, and I think one of them, she said she was a singer. I think in another, I suppose, realm she sang, but she was saying she loves the comedy club, you know. And I was like, oh yeah, cool, yeah. I said, when do you switch over into the new clubber? Because you know, I had to ask, like, because they were like
the starstruck.
Yeah, I said, yeah, it's soon enough now. We'll all have it. I said, are you happy with it? They were like, it's comfortable. That was it. Like,
it does look like something off Star Trek, doesn't it?
It does. Like, they could have gone way cooler. Like, it's like,
yeah,
come on. Or just way more discreet.
We get an issue, we call it, right? So you get a form to fill out, and you have a certain amount of points. So you might need shirts or t-shirts or whatever. Because I'm 25 years in, so I have 25 years of t-shirts. I have t-shirts that are fucking, you know, older than some people that you know.
I think you even gave me a couple of t-shirts. I think.
I'm forever giving them away. I'm forever giving them away because I have 25 years. But we didn't get any in the last 3 years because of COVID. So we've 3 years of issue coming to us. So normally, like, you might get, like, this, you know, you get a few t-shirts and then there's hats and the whole lot. I think I have 10 hats coming to me. You know, there's going to be loads of stuff coming to me in September, you know.
Great, right?
I'll get
as Tom rubs his hands together. Great. Time to call in for some tea.
But the ones I always give away, we go away on trips and we bring over Dublin Fire Brigade t-shirts on trips, especially to America. And you try and get t-shirts, swap t-shirts off. That's what the firefighters do. And I used to get FDNY ones, and when you come home, you wouldn't realize how big they were, you know, until you got home, because their sizes are all over the place. Like I'm a double XL in Ireland, but I'm a large over there. You know?
Jesus.
So you get t-shirts off lads, and I come home and I realize these things are way too big. And there's a few lads I know down home. Most of them actually are farmers.
Yeah, of course.
And I used to give them the t-shirts. And my brother-in-law came home one time. He got the ferry over, he brought the car over, and he was driving out from Clonmel, and he got stuck in behind a tractor, and the guy in front of him has FDNY t-shirt on. And then he passed out that tractor, came in behind another tractor, and the guy has FDNY t-shirt on. And he turned to my sister and went, "Is your brother kitting out the whole fucking village? Like, what, you know?" There's not like a good fire brigade t-shirt, you know.
Well, sure, that was like, I was only telling somebody recently, they were asking about the gigs that I did down in Clogheen. And the room would fit 100 people if you looked at it, if it was in Dublin, but max you get 75 into it in Clogheen, like, just max, because you look and you're going, they're all twice the width of Paul Marsh, like these just big, strong, physically big, strong men. Like, you don't realize that. You're like, oh, there's time and a half. There's time and a half the actual volume of men in here with the same, like, these fellas do not fit in with, like, urban environments. Like,
they were all on a plane now, that would be they were all on a plane now. Look, I'm grand if I'm beside an average sized person on a plane, but if there's 2 or 3 of me, like, we used to go over to play FDNY in New York, and we would scatter our seats around the place because there was no point in putting us all into one section, because we'd all be, you know,
and the plane would be dipping in the front corner.
Yeah. I was only saying to someone recently, you get used to being this size, you know. Like, it's only when someone points it out to you, you take a photograph, you know, you kind of really, oh yeah, I am actually a bit bigger than normal. So
I hope you get fucking used to it, Paul, at some stage.
Oh no, but I mean, I forget. So I probably phrased that wrong. I forget that I'm big until, you know, someone takes a photograph or someone goes, "Oh yeah, man's oh yeah, I'm big. I forgot that."
By Irish standards too, like, you know what I mean. If you're in Holland, you just blend in, you know, because everybody's over 6'5" in Holland. Like,
my nephew was over in China, and he's about 6'3" as well, and so where he is, he's in a province, and when he said like a province of a city, he said there's still 8 million people there. Like,
Oh, sure, yeah.
But there's no, like, he's in a college there, working in a college, and there's probably only about 10, 12 people, that are Caucasian, we'll say.
Yeah.
And he when he went over there first, like, and it's the norm. He's got used to it. People just have their mouths wide open as he's walking down the street looking at him. And
Godzilla.
And they just stop and they start taking photographs of him. And it's just the norm. He said it's just we always think it's hilarious that he's over there teaching English, and we're just picturing all these Chinese that are going to come over to Ireland on holidays and get off the plane and go, well, lads.
Because you see those videos on TikTok of lads teaching kids out in Africa and stuff, and they're teaching like up the rat, and you're like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, my nephew now is South Tipperary, and then he moved and went to college in Cork. I moved in with 2 guys from West Cork, and he took on their accent.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And the combination is just, it's like the Mentos into a bottle of Coke of accents. It's just, and he comes out, and I can't understand half of what he said.
That's for anybody wondering outside of Ireland right now. That's if you took Alabama and mixed it with Texas, that's basically what you ended. South Texas, that's basically what you end up with. Like,
it's 2 of the strongest accents in Ireland combined. And he spent 3 years down there with the 2 lads, and just but the most communication I've had, actually, that reminds me of something I was only telling someone about him recently. He's one of my oldest nephews, Owen, and they were talking about cats up a tree in the fire brigade.
Oh, yeah.
So you actually do, like, we've got calls for 3 years. I remember when I joined the job, and there was this guy we worked with. He was like the senior man in Tara Street, so he would act up as a sub officer, and he shouldn't have been, really, because his personal skills wasn't the best. And I got a 999 call at 1 o'clock in the morning one time, and an elderly woman saying, "Look, I'm sorry to be bothering you, but I have a little kitten, and the local dogs have to chase him up the tree in front of my house here at 1 o'clock today, and he's up there 12 hours now. I can't get him down," and the whole lot. You get these back on, and like I'd seen it in television though. Cats up a tree. So I put her on pause, and I said to your man flash of a woman here is a cat up a tree with 12 hours, and she's just kind of worried. And he was reading a newspaper in the control room, and he looked over at me and goes, "Ask her, is the tree on fire? And if it isn't, tell her to fuck off." So that was my I realized then we don't do that, right? So, but anyway, years later, when I went to Dunleary about 7 years ago, when we got a call to a school, came in from the ISPCA, had a cat that was up a tree with 4 days, and even still, you were like, Jesus, like, this is strange, And as we're all going cursing, Jesus, cat up a tree, like, bloody hell, taking up a fire engine, and all that. And as we pulled into the school grounds, we realized RTE had a film crew there. And they were making a TV show about the ISPCA, and they were following this one around, right? And when we pulled in, our station officer nearly had a heart attack, and he turned around and he was going, "Put on all your gear, act professional." And I remember he turned to the fellow beside me, and he pointed and went, "Act professional." And when he turned back around, the man turned to me and goes, "Why did he say act professional to me?" And I just went, is it? And he just nodded, yeah, right, fair enough. So when we got out then, right, we were to get the cat out of the tree, and they suggested that I had like one of those sticks, a loop on the top of it, and you got it over the cat's head. So we set up, it was really high up now, so we had to use our biggest ladder. It's a 110 foot ladder. So we got the ladder up anyway, and got it up onto the tree, and I climbed up. And when I went to try to get the loop over the cat, he went further out the branch.
The bastard.
So we had to take down the ladder again, move it, went back up again. He went further out the branch again, took down the ladder, and as we went up the third time, the ladder's fairly heavy. The branch is kind of moving, and I'm like, this is not good, right? So then they had a plan B. Get the cat to move. The branch was down and near the other tree, which had loads of branches. This particular tree had no branches, right? So that's how they reckon the cat couldn't get back down. And like one of the lads pointed out, you never see a skeleton of a cat up a tree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway, but we were still there anyway, right? So we're all doing this, and we're trying to, he said, try and scare the cat onto the other tree. So I had the stick, and I started going, yeah. Right. No sign of the cat moving. And then
was that the official?
That was the official hunting cattle from Tipperary. Yeah, I want you. And I was like, yeah. And then I started easy first, like, yeah. And then I was like, yeah, and I'm banging the stick off the thing. And then I'm lashing, yeah, after hitting this, trying to get the cat to move over onto the other fucking tree, right? Eventually he jumps onto the other tree. We come down, job done, right? And we knew this TV show was going out. The wonder of editing, right? When you watch this TV show, went on at 1:00 in the afternoon, you just see your one talking saying the cat's been up a tree 5 days, it's terrible, and she's doing a big interview. So we called the fire brigade. They show us coming in the gate, and then they show me up the tree going, yeah! There was nothing in between. Half an hour. So, and then you see the cat jumping, right? So I remember thinking, it's 1:00 in the afternoon, no one's going to see this. Of course, my nephew, who's a student in Cork, rings me up, the phone rings. Here, lad, did I just see you up a fucking tree trying to beat the shit out of a cat? And ever since, right, I'm 25 years in the fire brigade. I've delivered about 15 babies. I've pulled people out of burning buildings. I've shocked back people with the defibrillators. I'm not, not to be blowing my own trumpet, but anytime he fucking mentions or anyone says anything about me being in the fire brigade, then he goes, oh yeah, beating the shit out of cats up trees. That's his perception.
That's what you get.
What I do for a living. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. But there comes a point too when you have to, like that, the fucking thing is burning. But you do you put on a show for the camera, or what point?
And I know it was like, no, in fairness, like the cat was, it was up a tree for, it was only a kitten, it was up there for, it did need help. And like, if we always say, if in doubt, call us, because you get some obscure stuff, I heard something there last night. I don't know, should I say it on podcast? You can edit this out if it's bad.
Yes. Yeah.
So the lads went, he was telling me recently, because everyone knows I do comedy, and they're always going, here's one for you, Marshy. Tell this one on stage.
Yeah.
So the lads went last week, they went to this guy, and burns to anus was on the sheet, right? So they went in and they're talking to him, and he said, what's the story? And he's like, he's kind of walking kind of funny. He's, come on in, lads, he's real, and listen, I'll tell you what it is, lads. I'll tell you what the story is. He goes, I suffer wicked from constipation, and what I do is I get a basin and I bring it into the shower with me.
Oh, Jesus.
And I take the top off the shower, and I give myself a bit of an enema.
Oh, geez.
And he goes, and I push it, and I let myself fill up, and I fill up, and when I can feel it, I can't take it anymore. I take it out. He goes, and it sorts you out. He says, the best thing you'd ever do. It's fucking great. But I went to do it tonight anyway, and I never realized that the water wasn't scalding hot. So he's after fucking making bits of himself. And he's bringing, right, but the beauty of it is, they're going along in the ambulance, and he says to my mate, he goes, are you long on this job yourself? And he says, I am. I'm 15 years old. He goes, you must see some mad stuff, do you? And my mate's thinking, yeah, you're in the fucking top 5, you fucking lunatic.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
No, but just I'll
let you decide. That's a great story. I'll let you decide if that stays in or not. That's a fucking great story.
No, you can't keep that, because actually that leads me on to something else, right? Because I was saying I must plug my show. I'm doing a one-man show later on in the year.
Yeah.
But I did a one-man show in Edinburgh called Joke Detector, and the plan was it was tell fire brigade stories. But there's a lot of fire brigade stories you can't tell, because I was telling them over in Edinburgh, and I remember telling about a story about some fella breaking his leg, and a guy in the front row turned to his girlfriend and went, that happened to me. I was out of work for 6 weeks. You're like, it's just, fire brigade are different. People have empathy, and the minute you mention an injury, it ruins the fucking story. We had a guy, I had this great story. There was a guy, he crashed into a gate in Phoenix Park, and the gate came in on top of him, came in the windscreen, and the top corner of the gate impaled the top of his shoulder. Now, it didn't do any damage, just a bit of muscle damage, but it went into him. So we had to cut away the car to get at him, to cut the piece of the gate and all that. And during the process, someone pointed out that he was driving a Mitsubishi Lancer.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I had this story about, imagine there'd be the same as driving into fucking Specsavers with a Ford Focus, and there's a list of them,
yeah. A
But the
Mitsubishi Colt
minute I mentioned
hitting
about
a
him getting
horse.
impaled, you saw the whole crowd just go, and you were like, fuck, like, so I had to drop. I remember going over with an hour show, and I think I had to drop about 15 minutes, something like that, because of these stories.
There'd be a legitimacy to you telling it. There would be
Yeah.
but if I'm telling it, I would sound like the silly man telling it. But there's a legitimate, because you look like a firefighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm telling them first person as well. I suppose that's the thing. I remember another one. Stop me now if I told you this, but we had a guy at Christmas who we arrived and he was sitting on a chair in his doorway, and he was naked but with his towel around him, and he was covered in blood. He was a shaved head fella. He's probably in his 50s, and he was covered in blood all over. And I was like, what the fuck? My first thought was he's after getting the shit bit out of him or something, right?
Yeah.
And we said, this is going to be a good story. What it was it was a normal 3-bedroom terraced house or whatever, right? And they used to put the Christmas tree in the front room, in the sitting room.
Okay.
And it would he's like, it would take up a quarter of the room.
Yeah.
So this year they decided not to. They put it out in the back kitchen, come dining room area, right beside, and it was beside the patio doors. So they put it there in the corner, and he went off up to bed anyway. And the wife followed up, but she never unplugged the fucking Christmas tree. So he's above in bed, and he said, "Do you know the way you're in bed now? It's nice and warm, and you're snuggled in, and you're going off." But all you could see coming in the back windows was yellow, purple, green, red, yellow, purple, green. The fucking this thing was shining like fucking mad, and he was like, "For fuck's sake, she never turned off the fucking Christmas tree. I won't be able to go to sleep." And he's like, "Oh, bald." So eventually, anyway, he got out of the bed anyway, and he's bollock naked. So he goes downstairs, and he gets down on all fours to reach in underneath the Christmas tree to plug it out. And they have a Jack Russell who was asleep in the corner. And the Jack Russell came over, curious to what was going on, and stuck his cold nose up against the back of your man's balls. And your man jumped through the fucking patio door. He got such a fright.
But the only thing about that is that's a good story, even from your personal point of view, down the pub forever to tell that.
Yeah.
Where did I get this scar? Wait, I fucking tell you. But
he was covered in scars. Yeah.
Hence again, I come across these fucking stories. Hence again, there has to be sleeping in the full nude. Just the jocks have to go on, because you never know a scenario like that. Next thing you know, you're surrounded by a dozen fucking firemen and your cock is out, and you're covered in blood. Yeah. At least have some semblance of fucking humanity,
from my experience of being a paramedic, it holds stuff in.
It does, of course. Yeah. Yeah, you're picking somebody up and your junk is falling out all over the field.
There's that famous Billy Connolly one about changing in underwear, and he's like, as if like my mother's going to get me in hospital and I got knocked down by a bus, and he's saying, "Oh, he's grand, he's going to make a full recovery," but I mind me saying his underwear was an absolute disgrace. Of course it fucking was. I stepped out in front of my bus, but I wouldn't be. Sleeping in the nude, I'm not there yet, but I find it with elderly people, it is a thing.
Is it?
Yeah, big time. The older you get, the more you just don't care.
Again, if you're joining us, Paul is also a paramedic as well as a fireman.
Yeah.
He doesn't just wander around and quiz elderly people.
I'm not doing surveys, door-to-door surveys.
So, I mean, I know I've asked you before, and it looked like it was always going to be in the civil service or the forces of some sort, but you started off by saying you got nervous a week out, a week of not doing gigs, and then you're doing gigs. Like, to go into something as fucking dangerous, that literally in the title of description of it is the most insane. Like, when you think of what it says, like, you wouldn't, like, to go and fight anything is mental, but to fight a fire is like, well, that's the maddest fucking phrase of all time. Like, surely, bit of God, the first couple of fucking years where you must have been fucking terrified going out, going, what's coming next? Like,
yeah, I've been in a few scary ones, but as we've gone on, we've become more health and safety conscious in that it's all about teamwork. You don't go too far in, unless you have a few lads with you and stuff like that, and we have all the best gear and the whole, in saying that though, if you get someone our thing is persons reported. That's the last thing you want to hear as a firefighter. If you at least if you go and a place is on fire and you think, right, we're not going to save this, Like sometimes we got an attic on fire one time, and I wasn't long in the job. I think it was about 2 years in, and the station officer just said, "We're going to fight it from the outside." That was the first time I've seen, and because he just decided inside was just. So myself and a kind of a senior firefighter went up, and we went up onto the landing, and then there was this real narrow stairs bringing you up into an attic conversion, and we went up, and he says to me, the senior firefighter, "This is too hot, Marshy. Come on, back down." And we came down to the landing, and the second team came in behind us, and this guy goes to me, "Give me that hose," and he, as if to say, "We'll fucking sort this out."
Like a maverick.
Yeah, and he went up the top. Now the heat is one thing, but when you put water on it,
Smoke.
it gets no. The heat just bounces
steam,
back
of
at
course.
you.
Yeah.
And I heard him go up to the top of the stairs, put on the hose, and all you heard was hot, and then you hear bump, 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 bump as they nearly fell back down the fucking stairs.
And it must be fair hot through your gear too, because your stuff is
ridiculous,
to feel
that. And they used to have like a thing before where you used to leave a gap so that you could feel the heat in your ears. So you were covered all over, but there was one little gap there. But we don't have that anymore. We just have a bit more cop on.
Oh, everything's on fire. I'm going to assume it's really fucking hot.
Yeah, I'm going to assume it's going to be hot. Yeah, exactly. So sometimes you do that. But no, I was going to say, if a person's reported, you pull out all the stops. You just go in and you can try and grab them and go, and then the building comes second to any life. But no, I touch wood. I've been all right. I got a fella one time. Actually, I went in on overtime. Actually, I tell a lie. I went in to cover a guy on a Sunday who was playing a football match.
Right.
And we got a flat on fire down in Dolphins Barn. And when I went into these particular flats, they have like a balcony. Like the old tenement flats. It's only a very narrow balcony.
A lot of them are gone now in Dolphins Barn, aren't they? They've done up. They've put in new ones, haven't they?
Oh, they've knocked down a load of them. Yeah. It was around there that I got, and so you've only a narrow. We'll say it's maybe 3 foot wide. And then you go in a doorway, and as you go in, on the right hand side is the kitchen. So your man had put on chip pans, our favorite, yeah. And the phone, by the way, my health and safety thing for today, the phone underneath the pillow is the new chip pan. Don't put your fucking phone underneath the pillow.
Right.
That's
I remember you telling me about phones before, like going, keep them as far away as you fucking can.
You can't just people plug them in overnight and they overheat. You know what I mean? And they next thing. And so anyway, they're the new chip pans, as we call it. But anyway, so back then it was chip pans. This is years ago, probably late 90s, early 2000s. And your man was on a sofa and the chip pan was going, but I could feel his feet. He was having a bit of a lie down. He had been drinking or whatever, that day drinking or whatever. And he put on the chip pan and then fell asleep. So I grabbed him and threw him over my shoulder and I said to the fellow with me, "I have him, let's go." And he went out the corridor and immediately went left, but I couldn't see him with the smoke. So I kept going. And it was only when my waist hit the wall I went too far.
Yeah.
And your man kind of half came off my shoulders. And it looked like I was about to drop him fucking 4 stories. The fella that was below, there was a fella below called Gonzo, and he said I had my hands out. I thought I was going to have to catch the fucker. I thought you were about to throw him down to me. Because I just came out of the smoke with this guy in my
so you went straight out onto the balcony.
I went out onto the balcony. Instead of coming out the door and going left, I kept thinking I was still in the corridor. And it was only when my waist hit the wall that I realized, oh shit, I've gone too far. And then I nearly lost. It was only I put my hand out and grabbed your man and had him like in a baby, like I was holding him like a baby, and brought him back over the car. But for a split second, I thought I was going to drop him out over the fucking balcony. Imagine if I did that, I'd have been on every fucking newspaper the next day.
Can you imagine your man? Can you imagine being your man and surviving the fall? We'll say, but you're falling asleep with a lovely with a drink snooze, which is a lovely snooze, and going, I'll have a couple of chips now when I wake up, and only to wake up, to be looking backwards as this giant Tipperary man throws you off a fucking back.
and the poor guy Gonzo's below trying to catch him.
You said touch wood. Did you touch your fucking glass table yesterday, or what happened? I only saw that on Instagram.
Oh yeah, my glass table exploded yesterday in the heat. I reckon it must have been an air bubble or something in it or whatever.
There must be, but I gave us a small laugh thinking the one fella who should be able to deal with the heat, like all his things should be heat protective. Like,
actually, it's funny you should mention about heat. Sharon said to me there recently, where I was talking about buying a plot, I'm turned 50, right? I'm going through a fucking real midlife crisis.
Oh, a plot. Oh, plot.
A plot, yeah, a plot.
Right.
And she says, do you want to be buried or cremated? And I said, I'm not going to spend 30 years avoiding fires and then go full hog on the fucking end. So plot. So,
are you gonna?
I don't know. I don't know. I see Tipperary or Dublin. I don't know. That's the thing.
Oh Jesus! Now, yeah.
This is the wrong podcast to be bringing up that, huh? Tell you now.
It's given that you're still wearing the Ardfinnan top and all the rest.
Yeah,
of it,
that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's going to be Tipperary here, but then I like the idea of, they can cremate you, collect up your ashes, and actually heavily compress it and turn it to a diamond. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, you can. So the idea is that they're just these heavy compression machines that if they compress any carbon, because that's all a diamond is essentially, is carbon under the most ferocious pressure. So any carbon, i.e. ash, they can take it and actually put it under so much pressure to create a man-made diamond out of it.
Deadly. That's a good idea.
I kind of like the idea of that.
Yeah.
Or I like the idea. I remember myself, McBride, talking about this, and the cool way to go, I think, would be to fill me full of conkers and then have a proper biodegradable coffin, and then
and a load of trees would grow out.
A load of trees grow out of me. I like the idea that I feed a tree.
Yeah.
Or do the Hunter S. Thompson and get shot from a cannon.
The cremated thing or even the diamond is that I just think if someone has to take care of you, they have to have you on their mantelpiece. And I think within 3 years, 3 generations, they'd be like, Paul, who? He was your grandfather. Oh, what's this thing? Diamond. Fuck that. Yeah, see how much you get for that on eBay. You know what I mean? I don't think, I'd rather.
But then the gravestone too. Who's going to fucking mind that? There's nothing sadder than when you go to a grave, whatever, and there's
at least in years, somehow historian in years to come can stumble across it and fucking,
This fella starred in a Spanish horror. Can you believe that?
This fella was a successful businessman in America, and for some reason he got buried in Racool and fucking Dublin.
He had a 4x4 company in South Africa that really, really.
I'm loving Racool, by the way. I'm living up in Racool now, as you know, but it's like a home away from us. So I'm still in a village, but I'm in Dublin, so it's good.
Well, see, in all fairness, you're very social anyway. I'd say if you landed anywhere, you'd kind of make friends with the locals anyway,
Well, I think COVID was a big thing. We all got to know each other here, but they're all cultures as well anyway. So
it's the way of it. I'd imagine any place when we lived in Newcastle as well, all the people around us were either foreign nationals or cultures, because again, it's got you've got one eye down the country. And sure, even a bit further in, where I was talking with Colm O'Regan, you play Patriots in, and 60% of the audience are professional cultures.
Yeah.
They all live within the one area. It's like the Ellis Island of Dublin to the southern cultures, like.
Yeah.
Because it looks,
you actually know certain areas of. I was going to say, certain areas of Dublin as to what cultures have settled there. What counties.
Oh yeah. The Munster people will primarily have settled, and you get the odd Kilkenny, Portlaoise person, but mostly Munster people have settled in Kilmainham.
Yeah.
Because I did it a couple of weeks ago, and you could tell by the vibe of him chatting to different people, like that there was, all right, yeah. There's and everybody's professional, like proper professionals, like.
Yeah, that was actually one of the places, now that you mentioned, it was one of the first places I lived in Kilmainham. It was lovely.
I lived in Inchicore.
Yeah. And I lived in Inchicore after that. Then I lived in that was a great spot as well. I used to walk home from town on a regular basis.
Oh yeah. I'm sure. I mean, there's always even if you left it early enough. What I used to enjoy doing was going codding myself that you were leaving the pub early, or you're going, no, I'm not sitting out now. But you're right. By the time you'd walked back to fucking Inchicore, you'd passed 40 good pubs on the way home.
Yeah.
And you'd most definitely stop in a bit of music or something, or there'd be maybe 2 or 3. You were never getting home, like, because there was always a couple of good pubs. That's the one thing, I suppose, about living down here rural. In another way, I suppose it's kind of good because it keeps me off the sauce, is that a lot of the rural pubs that are around here, in a sad and good way, they got shut down. The heavy drink driving laws and stuff like that just fucked them. Like, Reed, that's the long and the short of it. Like,
I think we had the local shop in Ardfinnan, and I hated the fact that everybody knew everybody's business. So I couldn't wait to get away, and I wait to get away. Like, so when I came to Dublin, I thought, oh, brilliant! Nobody knows you. There's millions of people. You can do what you want. And then it's gone full circle now. you know, when I'm thinking, I like the fact that I have friends in there. Like I collected one of my neighbors from the airport, you know, and I love, you know, that kind of, I like that you can do that, or if there was someone stuck for something, you know, you can put it up in the WhatsApp group or whatever, people search, you know, that kind of thing. I've gone full circle now. I don't, and I have a local. The Puchin is my local.
Yeah, well, that's a good local in all fairness, like. But because there was when we lived in Newcastle now, the local wasn't fucking hectic. The pub that was down there wasn't hectic. But isn't it funny, like, that you were, because you hear from so many country fellas like, I just need to get away, man. And in my own head, I'm going, just admit it deep down. It's going to come around where you love the idea of a small community. You love it.
I'd actually, I was only saying to Sharon, I'd move again. I probably wouldn't mind. I have a thing about living beside the sea. If I could ever.
Do you?
Yeah, I would. When I retire from the fire brigade in 5 years' time, so I don't think there'll be much, you know. And I take example from fellas like yourself who've moved down the country and it hasn't affected their comedy career. You know what I mean? You still come up for gigs.
It doesn't at all. Like, it doesn't at all. Like, you know.
And I mean, if I'm not going to be working for Dublin Fire Brigade, I may as well just, you know, head down and walking on the beach now in the morning would be my idea of heaven now. You know.
I like the notion that you would still fall into a soft old civil servant's job, maybe doing two mornings a week or something, like the local lollipop. You'd make a great lollipop man, like. Because in fairness, you'd be so good you'd be good with people and having a line for everybody as well. But plus, they'd see you from like 50 cars back. Do you know what I mean? You'd be the tallest bloke over everybody. Like,
I saw a thing on television there recently where the lollipop men fucking nearly get knocked down about once a week.
Did I?
And I was like, I never thought about that.
All right, take that back. So no, that's a terrible idea.
But it's funny. We were only talking about it because we've often been at road traffic accidents where we blocked off the road.
Yeah,
and there might be a little gap there, and some fellow will throw the car up on the curb and fucking drive past us as there's like someone on the ground that we're doing CPR on.
It was only by fluke or whatever that I was coming off it early. I was coming home the other night after a gig in Wicklow, and I came down the motorway, the N7, and then I came off at Care.
Yeah,
and didn't, because had I left it, the bridge that goes over the Tipperary Road out of Care.
Yeah.
This is 1:30 in the morning. There was 4 fire brigade, and as you told me before, the reason for 4 of them is you need 2 of them to act as blockers. To stop people. But thank fuck, because I would have been there by the looks of it all night, because there's no turning around, like.
And but you see some of the mad stuff, like when we do, like, we block the traffic on the M50. But you see people pulling the maddest maneuvers, then they're like, like, fuck this, you know what I mean? And they go up onto curbs and they go everywhere trying to get past you, like.
But people like, the thing I noticed about, and even I was going up to the lounge the other night, and literally I came in the Long Mile Road whistling, and I turn off at the end to go up, because I like to go up the canals, all the way up to the end of the canals and cut down that way.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, by Dolphin's Barn, just turned over and somebody pulled a stupid move or whatever, and my temper just went from 0, which it had been for weeks. There hadn't been a blip on the radar temper-wise. And my temper just went straight to 10. I'm like, oh, for fuck. And thankfully I was able to step outside myself for a second to go, oh, Jesus Christ.
I'm actually the opposite, right? Because I'm in work on blue lights and aggressively trying to get through traffic all day long.
Yeah.
When I hop into my own car, I'm like, it's a trivial journey.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm in no rush. You know what I mean?
I suppose the importance of your car journey, it pales in comparison to trying to save some fucker's life.
I have done the thing where I forgot that I'm in my car. There's a thing, right? On all the ambulances, you just reach up with your left button and there's a 999 button. It's just on the roof. You just hit that and everything comes on, all the blue lights, because there's 3 sections of blue lights. You can turn them on individually, or you just hit this button and they all come on. And I've been in traffic more time, come up behind traffic and reach up and go, oh yeah, I'm in my car. Shit, I have to sit here. Or the other one I did was, I was on the ambulance one night and when I was in Tala, and I went up over this bridge. It's a narrow bridge going into Neilstown. So it has traffic lights. So I went over that maybe that night, must have gone over maybe 20 times, over and back, doing cases. And the next morning I finished, I was living in Lucan. I just fucking milled down the road, went straight through the red light on a bar. And this cop bike was behind me. And pulled me in, blue lights. And he just comes up to the window and I goes, Guard, I'm really sorry. I'm just after finishing a 15-hour shift in the fire brigade. And I went over that bridge last night. And he just started bursting himself laughing and goes, go on. And just left me off.
Wow.
Actually, I got to tell you another one about that bridge. How are we for time? I'm not holding you. years ago, there was a car in the canal up there near Clondalkin, and we were called, and we went down, and we knew there was no one in the car, but Ado, the station officer, said, throw out the grappling hook there and pull the car up on its side so you can see into it. So I threw out the grappling hook, pulled it on the side, and you could see into it. It was grand. But then the grappling hook, we couldn't get it back, So he said it was kind of stuck to the car. So he said, throw the rope over to the far side of the canal. We'll go down. We're like a mile and a half up the canal. We'll go down and we'll drive up around to the other side and we'll get it then, So I went to throw it to the other side, and didn't work anyway. And I got a brick, the red bricks with the 8 holes in them?
Yep.
So I got one of them, and I tied it onto the end of the rope, and I swung it, and I only went about 3/4 away. Of course, someone else goes, give me that, you fucking idiot, I'll do that. And he had to go 3/4 away. And someone else said, come on, you haven't got a clue. Show me how, I'll show you how to do that. And then he threw it. And there's 2 guards with us, right? And they're bursting themselves laughing. And it became this competition. Everyone had a fucking go with this thing, right? And no one would get past 3/4 of the way, right? And so I had a second go, and I started swinging it. And while I was swinging it hit the ground and hit off my shin. And I was in agony. I started jumping around the fucking place. And they were all bursting themselves laughing at me, right? So anyway, a pickup truck arrived on the far side. The guards must have called them. And the rope was 3/4 of the way. And your man pulled the rope out of the way, or pulled it out of the water with the brick at the end of it. And we were like, here, throw us over the brick there, wink, wink, knowing that you couldn't possibly throw the brick the full into the canal.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
The canal. He looked at the brick, immediately weighed up, it was too heavy, broke it off the side of the truck into half, and just lobbed it over to us. And we were all like, for fuck's sake. There was about 12 of us there. No one copped on to do that.
So look, anyway, you're not engineers. You're You're civil.
But flash forward to Coco's. I mentioned earlier on, I used to go to Coco's all the time. So I went to Coco's one night. I came out, and I wasn't drinking, so I was driving, and I had a Crean too. It was my first car. And there was a bunch of lads looking for a lift home.
Favorite.
My mate says, "Can you give?" Yeah. Oh, and it was immaculate. I bought it off my sister. So I said to him, "Here, look, pile in there and fucking, So I think there was 5 of them in the back, and my mate Sweeney in the front, and they were lying across each other. I mean, health and safety out the window. And the things you do when you're a young fella. I was probably late 20s. So when we were coming up over that bridge in Clondalkin, and there's a fucking guard at checkpoint, and I was like, balls. And my mate Sweeney goes, sorry about this, ball. Now, obviously I'm going to get in trouble. There's 5 lads in the back, And I pulled up, and the guard came over. And the guard came over to the window, and I smiled out at him. And he says, what's your name? And I said, Paul Marsh is my name, guard. I'm Tipperary's brick throwing champion of the year. And your man started laughing. He turns back to another guard. He's going, here, look who it is. It's your fucking man. And all the lads in the back of the car go, what the fuck is going on? And they were bursting themselves laughing. They were going, that was a gas, Dave. Everybody, you're going ahead. And never even noticed that there was 5 lads in the fucking back of the car.
There's a lot of you've inspired us throughout all this, Paul, when it comes to the health services and the services throughout this country. But in a lot of ways, you've given a lot of stories of ineptness.
That's the thing. I think you can never, there's a friend of mine, Tyke, who retired, and I was saying you could write a book, but the funniest stuff is when fellas get things wrong. You know what I mean?
Nobody wants to hear it, but it's just like comedy. Nobody wants to hear you how you fucking
we're 99%. I can honestly say 99% of the time, we're a professional crowd, and Dublin Fire Brigade have this thing where there's no room for we're trained to the highest. If there's any piece of equipment, the fucking dynamics, the wit of it, the weight of it, everything. They don't leave anything to chance, and they train you up on how to use it. You know what I mean? Because there's always something go wrong. We have this thing where foolproof, childproof, and fire brigade proof. Because if it can be broken, we'll break the fuck. With any piece of equipment. But but like that, you will, no matter what happens, it's that type of job that things go wrong. And I remember the lads were telling me there was we used to we're all paramedics. So Dublin Fire Brigade amalgamated with Dunleary. Yes. And there was a few guys that weren't paramedics. So if they'd send a fire engine if there wasn't an ambulance available, or they'd send it to help out if they needed bodies. And they got this guy who'd fallen off a wall. He'd fallen about 20 feet or something like that. But there was a guy working the station. No. Oh no! And this guy was John, who was close to retirement. There was no point in training him up to be a paramedic. So when they went to different things like this, they get him to do different jobs. Now, if you have a problem that you think your back might be broken, or neck or whatever, you do C-spine, we call it, where you hold a person's head straight in line, and you put on a collar, and you put them on a spinal board or whatever. So whenever they used to go to an incident, they get your man John to hold the head, right?
Yeah.
So John had gone on holidays, hadn't been away much, but he'd gone on holidays to Krakow in Poland.
Yeah.
And he'd been going on about it to everyone in the whole lot. So he has your man holding his head on the ground, and he goes to him, so you okay? You know, you're in a lot of pain. Your man goes, yeah, it's a bit pain. And goes, all right. You have a bit of an accent there, have you? Where are you from yourself? I'm from Poland. Whereabouts? Oh, Krakow. And he goes, I was there. And he started turning his head around to face him. And then I was like, John, what the fuck? Was you don't see his man? Oh, he's from Krakow. But stuff like that, you know what I mean? You can't. I mean, your man's well retired. That was years ago, but you know what I mean.
But and also in jobs like that, you do have to find levity, I suppose, in these, because it's heavy. That shit can be heavy.
Yeah.
Like a day on a gig, like a 12-hour shift, which he could
15 at night time, but you could see a lot of stuff. Like I got 9 dead Stevens's night, 1999, on the one shift.
What?
Yeah, and 3 of them fell downstairs. You know, that was the worst night I've ever been. But that became, when I was in Tallaght now, you on average you see 2 or 3 dead people a week. But I mean, that's par for the course. That's what you signed up to.
That was literally only something genuinely I thought about last night. We were watching the documentary on Netflix about these 2 lads seeing debris all over the road, and they pulled in to see what the fuck it was, and they came across a dead body. And I remember, and I'd never thought about this before, but I was going, Jesus, imagine landing on, you're tipping home from from a fucking, it's only tipping out to get a bag of chips. And lo and behold, there's a dead woman on the road. It was like, because I'd be cool enough under hairy scenarios. I'd probably have a meltdown to myself at 6 hours later, but I was still going, fuck, that'd be a fair old shock to the system. And then obviously I was thinking about you today. I was like, sure, for fuck's sake, fucking hell, sure, Paul there's nothing at this stage could fucking, obviously you never get used to it, but at the same time,
we usually do arrive after it happens. The only time I saw one get knocked down on the Keys one night when I was training in the fire brigade, and that really kind of, when I say she got knocked down, she got flipped up into the fucking air.
Ooh.
She stepped out in front of a car. Now it turns out she was a heroin addict, and she was a bit high, so she didn't kind of know what she was doing. But she stepped out in front of 2 young ones that were driving the car, and I got out of the car, and that was a bit kind of hectic because you saw the accident happen.
Yes.
Normally we arrive and there's a crowd, and you can tell so much when you arrive. If the crowd are standing back, then it's serious. If they're all nearby, it's but it becomes again, it's teamwork. You know who's who and who's good at what jobs, and there's always the fella who's a bit more medically inclined, and you follow his lead. Or my thing was always I cut cars. If someone needed to be cut out, I was a dab hand at that.
I'd love an I'll go at that though.
It's brilliant. It's great.
I'd love it. I'd always. I remember helping the fire officers from Care one day. Myself and the father came on an accident, and the woman was fine. She was strong built woman, like, so it was going to take a bit of lifting. And the lads, they were a small crew. They physically needed our help. She was upside down in a ditch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Over a dike, like, and I went, fuck, we're gonna have to cut this car. It's buckled up like a fuck. There's no getting the doors open or whatever. And I remember watching that joke, going, lads, if you want one hand, let me have a go at that joke. Like,
it's fucking great. I know when I say I'm the one who does the cutting, I made sure I was the one who does the cutting. When I got in, I was like, I want to be the rep. Because when I was in Tallaght, there was a guy, Mark, who was the guy who had the reputation for doing the cutting, and he was moving station. And the minute we went to, I was grabbing that cutting gear, there was no one else getting it off me. I wanted to build a rep, and then so that was. But no, everyone, would have at the moment, probably my reputation is driving, because that's all I ever fucking do these days. But we were up the mountains yesterday, and we were going up to a fire up on the top of the mountain, and we keys to get in the gate. And as we're going up, there's 2 walkers coming towards us, and the sub officer says, "Oh, 2 people out for a nice walk." And I goes, "They won't like me in a minute." And he goes, "Why? What do you mean?" I goes, "Look at the rear view mirror. The fucking dust I was fucking," and there was no avoiding it. You know what I mean? And I just saw them in the rear view mirror, and the 2 with their jumpers up around their nose, kind of fucking trying not to fucking breathe in this heavy. So what can you do? You're driving a fire engine through a forest. Were you on high alert the last week or so because of fires? Yeah, we're the whole time up there. We keep getting shot. Where I am in Dunleary above us is there's a wood up there called it starts with a B. I can't bloody think of it. That'll come to me now in a second. But It's the strangest thing. The ground is like turf, and you could be putting a fire out, and then you look 100 yards down, and there's another fire. It's like it's going underground.
It does, though. Sure,
Barnaslinga is the name of it. But yeah, it's just you could be there all day. You know, you could be there all day. And we've got these new backpacks now, which I think are really handy. I think you put about 20 liters into them. They're like a haversack, and you have a spray. You know, because most of the time you only need a little bit of water just to kind of dampen.
Oh, so they're like weed killer, like the oaks you'd put on your back.
Kind of like that. Yeah. So we have those for going to areas that you can. But the one across from it, that particular one, we've got we've got keys for all the gates now, you know, and they've put in Quail have put in locks that are. We used to have a fucking box of keys, but they've finally got around to making one universal key, so we can go in anywhere now, you know, which saves a lot of hassle. So
I remember reading as you talk about like forest fires and stuff. There was a guy. Do you remember Fhm Magazine?
Oh, do I what?
I used to on a Friday. You get it once a month on a Friday. There used to be some unbelievable, because you know there wasn't the internet really at the time. You know, for reading. Certainly didn't have phones that had smartphones, and then it helped. You know, they'd have a bit of sensational, you know, good-looking couple of women in it as well. But it was really, but they had this one fella, and it was Question Time with a Smoke Jumper was the name of this guy's profession. And it wasn't a really well-paid job, but it was the most insane fucking job. So these lads would fly over forest fires with 2 small chainsaws on them, a shovel, and a couple of more bits and pieces.
Just fire breaks. That's what they were doing.
Yeah, fire, but just and get dropped into fires, into smoke.
There's a great movie. It only came out there a few years ago. Josh Brolin is in it. It's a true story about a fire team. Really? They were doing that. Yeah, and not to be ruining it because it's a true story, but they didn't make it. But it was what they were doing. But it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant what they do. Like, so they just that's what we do a lot of the time. Just with water, we just have to stop the spread of it.
Yeah.
And what we use a lot lately now is drones.
Perfect to find out his movement.
We were on, you know, Cormac Moore. He was on the radio, and he was doing. So he was out for it was before he had his own show years ago. The Metro went on fire, and your man that was doing the show, he was a bit of I don't mind telling you now, he's a bit of a fucking tool. But he was on the radio, and someone was telling me that he was going on about, lads, I have to get reports out there now. There's drones flying around. That's bad fucking form. The fire brigade are trying to do their job. You're fucking flying drones around. Sheriff, folks, you want to cop onto yourselves, cop on. And he was giving it loads. And then they went to break, and they came back and he goes, oh, it's just been pointed out to us that that's the fire brigade drone. But no, we have them for see where the spread of fire is going, or what direction it's going. They're really technology is great, you know. But Crean, you just mentioned FHM. I actually wrote a piece. Can you see that?
Yeah.
FHM yesterday, and what it was about was every year they used to have a sex survey, and I was only young for that. I was probably 14 or reading these things, and I believed the fucking things. And what the thing that stood out for me, excuse the pun, was that 5% of fellas could sort themselves out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, 5% could blow themselves.
Yeah, sorry, okay. I was trying to not say that.
This is buckshot.
And I remember thinking, I'm gonna have to get the fucking rough end of the stick here now.
No, pardon the pun.
Yeah, but 1 in 20. What are the fucking odds? But now I know, looking back, it was 5 fellas full of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, how would they do that survey? Because you wouldn't, if you could, you wouldn't leave the fucking house. You know, you'd be like, bump, bump, bump. How are you? I'm doing a survey. I can, have to go. You know what I mean? Like,
there was. Do you remember like this is the height of the 90s, like, and I'll hum the tune and see. You'll definitely know. You should definitely know it. Do you remember Sunday nights? It would come on a beat on cover.
A beat on. I would you believe I never got into it.
Yeah, it was. I didn't fully, like, it was. There was weeks I would miss or whatever, but it was.
I'm thinking I was later in my teens. I was probably 17 or 18. Yeah, but I remember it was, you know, everyone was mad into it all right at the time. There was mad stuff on it.
It was the dawn of the fly on the wall, you know, documentary, like, you know, following holiday.
Mad shit went on. Yeah.
And it was like, and it opened your eyes to how fucking, in the words of an American friend of mine who the first time he moved to Ireland, he was looking for work in, you know, he'd come from logistics background. He wanted to get into the logistics office work, but because he's a big fella, he started bouncing first. And this guy came straight from Florida to here. So he had the notion of British people in his head as being, hello, this everybody's Downton Abbey or, Mary Poppins drinking tea.
Yeah.
And that was what he had in his head because that's the image they sell to the world. But he didn't. He had no idea of the actual people. Because until he started doing the door in Temple Bar, and you're getting a whole gang of girls from fucking Hull, and one, oh no, Lucy's tit is falling out, and there's like, he had no grasp that British people could be so trashy. And this is what Evita Uncovered was. It was just anything went, and the shit they were like. But there was one club called, I don't know, I think it was Manumission was the name of it.
Manumission, and they had a live sex show.
But they had this guy. They were paying him a fortune, and he would basically go up and he had a massive rod in himself, and he would just sit on a chair and blow himself.
It's in the in-betweeners, because the lads come up and they're right in front of the stage, and they're like, "Oh, what's this?" Next thing you mess, and they're like, "Oh, right, okay."
Is it? Because okay, I
But
completely.
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's probably like 0.05%, but it's not 5%. That was the thing that got me.
There's no statistic for it, Paul. There's nobody admitting it. There's nobody. They can only loosely base it. Maybe going, the possibility would be who was born with scoliosis and could bend over like that, and who would be born with a giant cock. Let's weigh it up. There's nobody would go to that effort. Nobody's paying funding for that fucking study to go.
Well, I managed to get around them. I managed to get around that because a friend of mine pointed out to me that we could bypass it, because if he sucked my one and I sucked his, then we would be the same. So we did that. And come here, years later, it turns out years later he was actually gay.
Stop.
Yeah. No, honest to God, yeah. I didn't know now. He had moved to another school, and he got a vice principal's job. But I'm only joking. That was my bit.
Yeah. That's a great bit.
That's what I have. That's
a great bit. That's a bit Jim Norton. That's going down Jim Norton's route there, where he ends up talking about some fucked up stories.
I remember those things in FH, and you just took them for a word.
Oh yeah,
that was just like, that's it.
And they like you. It was. I suppose it was the cosmopolitan. It was to balance out the cosmopolitan for men, I suppose, because it was.
Yeah.
It was a car, and I think they did a women's one as well at one stage, like, and it was literally copy and paste and change out a few words.
And the top 100, I remember Gillian Anderson was the top, and she was just,
oh yeah,
huge. Yeah.
And she go on to play Margaret Thatcher like later in life.
Yeah.
But I remember, never forget reading that story about your man, and your man could have been sensationalized it too. Most likely was, because he was an American, like. But he was playing down his job. Like, we're like, literally, it's the smoke that we're trying to not get killed by, because it's not really, we're not going to get hit by fire, really.
Yeah. Well, smoke kills, in any fire, the smoke will get you way before it, yeah.
But he was saying, so we're just trying to dig breaks as best we can and drop trees.
Yeah.
But they were saying, well, if you're in there for 4 or 5 days, how much grub do you bring? He says, next to fuck, you've not, you have the ration packs. Ration packs. He says, but I'll tell you this, he says, you do have a gun or two, he says, because you're jumping into forests that have wild animals. And he says, we came across one time a bear that had been pretty much cooked. He says, he says, so bear steaks isn't bad. So you work with what you fucking have. I can only imagine something similar in the Dublin Mountains. Yeah, it is.
But as a firefighter, you can swap with a firefighter from any place else in the world for a year. You take their house and they take yours. For a year, right? And so we swap with guys from Canada and Australia and all that, but nobody swaps with anyone from America, because you don't know what the fuck you can end up doing over there.
And by house, you mean firehouse, not actually spot?
No, your actual house. You swap your house for a year.
Fuck off.
Yeah, you can go over. Yeah, because a friend of mine, one of my good friends in Canada.
Do you swap wives as well? Like, what's the crack? Like?
No, you have to swap. You have to swap a house and a car, and that's the deal. And you can do this. This is a thing that's been going for years. And a guy from Canada came over, and everybody knows him as the Yank, because someone called him a Yank one day, and he got annoyed, and then of course he was the Yank from then on. But he brought us back. I probably told you the story. He brought us back then. He used to go on about that his brother played hockey, and they had a cabin up by the lake and all. And when we went over then to visit, he brought us over. A holiday of a lifetime. I've never been on anything like it. Turns out his brother had played for the Maple Leafs.
Jesus.
And the cabin was a mansion up on the fucking Lake Muskoka, and his neighbors were Goldie Hawn and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and we did.
For fuck's sake.
We did. We're going around in speedboats doing fucking pub crawls. It was fucking unbelievable.
Jesus Christ.
And I remember one time we were. He wanted to bring us to this place that was out. There was a highway nearby. You pulled in and you docked the boat and you walked through the forest and you came out on the highway and there was like a highway stop. And he wanted to bring us up there because they deep fried pizzas. They made the pizza, folded it over, and then deep fried it.
Jesus
and he wanted
Christ.
to show us these, right? And it was you could hear your arteries getting harder,
Yeah.
And the first day I got there, I have a big forehead, and my forehead was roasted. And Budweiser had a promotion on, and we were in this pub, and this one behind the bar goes, "Here, honey, put that hat on you, and don't take it off for the rest of your trip, or you're going, So I had this Budweiser hat on me, and we were having a great crack, and I had the hat on me. But anyway, I'm probably telling the story backwards, but we went into this place. It was real Hicksville. There's a bunch of lads at the I was going to say they look like you.
I take no offense.
There was tons of them at the bar, and we went in. We're all sitting down, and I was like, "Am I being paranoid?" They're fucking all staring at me. And so I went out to have a smoke. I smoked back then. I went out for a smoke. Sure enough, 4 or 5 of them come out, and they're standing near us outside, and they're looking at me. And one of them comes over there. I thought this is going to be. They're looking for a fight now. The man goes, "Hey, I really like your hat." I goes, "Oh, thanks very much. Do you want it?" And he goes, "Oh no, I couldn't take it off you." He goes, "Budweiser had a promotion, and there was 200 teams in the hockey league, and the hat that I had was the one that was impossible to get."
What?
Yeah. And I was like, "I'm from Ireland. I'm never going to take the hat. No, I can't. Just look, give me something for it." And he goes, "Would you like some cigarettes?" And he gave me 2,000 cigarettes for the fucking hat.
What?
Canadians, they're fucking lovely.
Only fucking you would.
I was just happy I wasn't getting beaten up,
Only you.
And then our last night, then we ended up in Niagara Falls, and I always remember I did my back in, and when we got to the hotel, I said to the concierge, real posh hotel, "Do you know is there where I get a chiropractor?" And so he sent me to a chiropractor. I got a taxi to the chiropractor. When I came out, I was brand new, and I hopped in this cab, away down this cab. I said, "I want to go down to the village there. My friends are at some big waterfall." And
you culture, yeah.
And I was joking. Like,
all right, okay.
He goes, "Sir, that's Niagara Falls. That's one of the 7 wonders of the world." And I was like, "Oh, that'll be the one." So yeah. And I thought, and then I felt guilty, like that he didn't get it. And when he dropped me off, I paid him. And as he drove off, I could see him burst himself laughing. He was taking the fucking piss out of me.
It was a double bluff, right?
Yeah, double bluff. I just thought that was brilliant. I was like, fucking fair play to you, but
I like the way you called it. Yeah, go on. Sorry, yeah.
I was going to say Canadians. They're just the nicest. The one place I want to go back to. I can't recommend it enough.
I like the way you called your Canadian friend the Yank, because it's just it has to be. It's like Paul. I remember I had Paul Collins on the podcast when they did the pub years ago. There was a fella that used to come in called Paddy Pajero.
Right.
But incidentally, he always drove Land Cruisers.
Right. The opposite is always.
It's classic. It's classic. Like I love the notion. Like, fuck you. We're giving you the name completely opposite to.
There's some brilliant nicknames in the job. I can't give you half of them because they'll, in case anyone is watching, they'll be like, they'll know.
Can I give you the greatest nickname in the world that I've ever heard in my life? That I heard a couple of weeks ago. I was up in Belfast, and Kieran Bartlett, myself, were in the limelight. We're upstairs, and we're sitting there. We're just shooting great nicknames, back and forth. And the simplicity of the best ones are from the simplest places. And he grew up in West Belfast, and this lad on his road, just normal, working class road. But this guy was known as Miss Ireland. A bloke in his late, middle-aged bloke, like Miss Ireland.
Yeah.
And Kieran was asking, going, how did that name? Like, he always just assumed he must have done an ad or a fucking modeling shoot one time and got the piss ripped out of him for it. Well, it turned out when he dug a bit deeper and found out how he got the name Miss Ireland. Turns out your man did a charity parachute jump years previous.
All right.
And he didn't land on land. He landed out to sea.
No way. Fucking hell.
So incidentally, he missed Ireland.
That's fucking brilliant.
It was apparently an 11-year-old young fella that came up with it, and it just stuck. It just stuck because it was pure and utter, like no beating that. Like,
That's fucking brilliant. No, as I say, there's loads of them I can't even tell you. You mentioned an ad there. He's retired now, so I can tell you this. But
I love how fellas have to
once they're
basically
retired,
time out.
they're
You're like, fucked. You're out of the
no, because
WhatsApp group.
I get in trouble. He years ago, firefighters could do adverts. You know, there was the Actors Guild or whatever, but we were allowed. Yeah, so there used to be loads of. But he did one for Andrew's liver salts. So when I joined the job, I just knew him as Shiny. His name was, but it was a shortened because his nickname was Shiny Hole. But there was always tons of those. You know, you can't.
Come here. You going to Edinburgh again this year?
I'm going to Edinburgh. Myself and Gary Lynch. What we did is we have 3 shows. He's doing the first half.
Of course.
He's the compilation shows. He's doing the first half up to the 17th, and I'm going to do the second half. So I'm going to be doing 3, 1 at 10 in the morning, 1 at 5:30 in the afternoon, and then 1 at 1 in the morning. How I'm going to sleep, I do not know.
Yeah, I've done the 1 o'clock in the morning thing, and
I'm looking forward.
Where's the 1 o'clock in the morning one? Out of interest.
City Cafe. It's on
Blair
Street,
yeah.
And the other thing I was going to say, I'm obviously I'm going on tour in October.
Brilliant.
And I'm in the process of writing a book.
I remember you saying that, so that's going ahead.
So an exclusive here now. Yeah.
This is your year, so.
Yeah. So well, I don't know about that, but I just loads of people have said to me that because I keep putting up the one-liners and I just thought I fucking thousands of them at this stage. I should put a book together. So I put the best ones in a book, and that I'm hoping should be on sale in October. So I'm going to self-publish. I'm not going to bother about it. I'm just going to get them and have them at gigs and stuff like that. Or you can get it on Amazon. So that's the plan,
when it's released, should we come back on?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, we'll pump it again. Like, yeah, sure. I mean, if you see that one over my shoulder, that's Paul Tyleck's one.
Oh, deadly.
Yeah, it's the best worst book I've ever read. A bunch of people bought it here. He purposely wrote the worst crime novel he could conceive. It's so dreadfully brilliant. Like
he's one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite. Actually, you wouldn't know him as a one-liner comedian. He's fabulous one-liner.
Oh, he's a great writer. He writes, like, if you read that book, you go, it's the work of a genius and a fucking lunatic genius. Like, to follow through and finish the whole book out in the guise that he wrote it. He wrote it like only a maniacal madman would write a book like this. But it's a great book. So I'm all for people pushing the boundaries on what they can do. Like, I'd love to be in a position where I had a team. You know what I mean? You've got the one-liners team, so absolutely. Are you going to get somebody maybe on board, small bit of artwork? Maybe, why not? There's
a friend of mine in the Fire Brigade, and he's an artist. He's going to do, Jeff is his name, and he's going to be doing the illustrations. So
you should definitely. I think you should tie in with the Irish Fire Service or something. You know what I mean? Because they, give a proceed, and then why not let them pump the wheels of it.
Well, I'm going to get a picture of the two of us in our fire gear because it grew over lockdown. So while I was, supposedly I was out of comedy, this was how my comedy was going, so this is how I was keeping my comedy brain going. So that was the plan originally. That was just put up a joke every day. I'll keep my comedy brain going. And then, And I have to be cryptic when I say this, but I was telling someone recently, my first gig back, one of the acts had, you probably know who I'm talking about, had cardiac arrest, but was okay, was grand, but couldn't make the gig, obviously. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I heard the story, but it's gone out of my head again. Yeah.
But, and when you lead someone, when you're talking, Carl was the MC and I was the replacement, and he goes, our next act is a paramedic, and he's going, and I'd say there was loads of people going, so the guy had the paramedic, and like, is the ambulance outside?
That's a service. That's some service, isn't it? That
you stay there, I'll go in and do your gig for you.
You said everybody on the team has a fucking job, so you can't cut him out of his car. So you're like, I'll tell some jokes on your behalf. Yeah, I'm that guy. Yeah, no problem.
Don't worry about the gig. I got that covered.
So even if there was like a priest, you could go up and say the mass or somebody. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
That is a service if ever I fucking heard of it.
And come here, have I got a second? I wanted to tell you something else.
Yes.
We got a guy who had a cardiac arrest. He was up for the match, an old guy in Temple Bar. And when we went in, I arrived in the ambulance. And when I got the defibrillator, and when I got over, there was a crowd around. When I got over, I realized there was no charge in the defibrillator. There's no power. Right. So I had to think fast, right? And I turned to the crowd and I said, "Quick, somebody get me a barman, and the barman came out from the local pub, and I said to him, "How much is a pint of Guinness in your pub?" And he said $8.50, and the guy on the ground went $8.50. Sorry, I just said I'd throw that in at the end.
You should maybe make him a cabin man. Fuck it, because if you're the only fella
Yeah,
that would
yeah,
have to do it, beautiful.
No,
beautiful.
but it
I
is.
knew
If
you wouldn't let
you've been
me
to
off.
Temple Bar lately, it's gone ridiculous.
I've walked through it and as much, but I try, like, when would you ever drink in fucking Temple Bar? Like, you know what I mean?
That's the thing, and they'll do like they did in other cities. They'll just outprice, and they'll just the whole
ruin it.
crowd will just move to some other area.
Yeah. And I guarantee you, there'll be a place like maybe up heading for the Liberties kind of a direction. I guarantee you, they'll be teeing themselves up because you can see it's already being gentrified up there by Guinnesses.
Top of Smithfield now is the place. I know from going around now. That's hopping up around there now. So and just regular fucking $5.50 a pint. Why would you? You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. And why would you? Is right.
Yeah.
What's the best place for people? Because your Instagram is brilliant because you put up the daily jokes, anyways, bro. So if anybody isn't following you,
I've recently started putting up videos. I was putting up old ones. I just didn't take to TikTok. I still try it every now. Yeah, I just don't. So the reels on Instagram, I've started putting up all videos. So I'm Paul Marsh comedian on everything. So
not Paul
Facebook,
Marsh 4x4, not Pablo Cambera. No.
Not that successful businessman from America, not the actor, not the character from a horror movie, just Paul Marsh the comedian. So it's a good job. It's a good job I did put comedian down the end of it just for fear.
Yeah, because it's still if we discovered nothing today, we discovered what your Spanish name is.
Yeah. Pablo Camarero. I like it.
I'll
tell Sharon that now later on. And
just come down with a button or two open on the shirt.
Yeah.
Paul, thanks a million again.
Thanks a million for having me on. Cheers.
And my thanks again to Marshy. Some man for the stories, isn't he? Brilliant. Like I was saying, if you want to support the show and get today's interview on the Owl video option, or if you want to get it without ads going forward, or go back and have a watch of all the rakes of other ones that are there, and you want the midweek ramble pod where I just cut loose again, it doesn't go out anywhere, it just purely goes to the Patreons. Like I said, I go a bit wild on that one, answering your questions, interacting with the gang. You get the ad-free early access, all of them. There's loads more benefits to join the Patreon gang. If you want to support the show, it'd be much appreciated. If you are listening on whatever platform you're listening to, hit subscribe, hit whatever you can in the way of a bell. Most people are listening on Spotify right now. Give it the 5 stars if you can, and if you'd maybe share it with your nana, that'd be great. Follow me on all the usual platforms, Tom O'Mahony Comedy or Buckshot Pod or Buckshot Podcast. You'll find it, just to keep up to date with all the bits and pieces I'll be doing. Typically on the Ramble Pod, I give everybody the rundown of what's coming up, gig-wise and all the rest of my life. And your lives. But sure, look it. For now, go on away, enjoy the rest of the weekend. I'll talk to you again next week. Good night, good listen, thanks.